Hello YouTube, and Stabs here. Welcome to my BF3 jet tutorial stroke class guide, and we are going to be covering how to get better in jets and how to improve your score per minute or KD in jets. As you can see, the gameplay in the background is on air superiority, and from previous videos you'll know that this is the game mode I've chosen to kind of help you get better, and that's what I recommend to use. Now, looking at other tutorials and stuff on YouTube, there's a lot of presumptions going on. A lot of people presume that you already know the best class setups to use, or what each class or perk, should we call it, could do for you, and that you're already a pretty competent pilot and you just need that little edge to get better. Now, what I want to do is be a bit different with that and kind of go back to basics a little bit. So we'll cover what I think would be a good class setup to use in air superiority and the reasons why, and then we'll talk about how to use each thing to its full potential and what you can do in the game mode to improve, and in turn, over time, that will help you improve as a pilot and basically to get better flying, because that's what you want to do, otherwise you won't be watching. So without further ado, we'll go into the class setups. Now obviously, if you haven't unlocked everything, it's not a problem. We'll cover that shortly afterwards. So with your class setups then, what I recommend to use, first thing would be stealth, second ECM jammer, and third would be your guided air-to-air missiles. Now stealth, that stops you from getting locked onto so quickly, so you'd want that because everyone's running air-to-air missiles. So you use your stealth, and that'll take longer for people to lock on. IR flares or ECM jammer. IR flares will stop incoming missiles. ECM jammer stops people from locking onto it. Now that's a very big difference. ECM will not stop incoming missiles. Heat seekers, pretty obvious what they do. And that's really it. There is not much more to it. That's what I recommend to use. If you haven't got it unlocked yet, again, it's not to worry about. All you got to simply do is, when you're playing air superiority, race from flag to flag, get those points, spot everything you can do, and pretty soon you'll have at least flares and air-to-air missiles unlocked. Very, very simple, very easy. Now again, don't worry too much if it's not unlocked, it won't take long. For air superiority, I highly recommend you use these things. Now what we'll do now is talk about how to get the most out of those things. So firstly, let's talk about the air-to-air missiles, or the heat seekers. Now what most people normally do is rely far too heavily on those. What I recommend you do is simply only use them for when you're flying into the battle, or when you see a target at range and you're not comfortable with leading target or anything like that. As soon as you start getting in close and personal with jets, you should automatically switch to your guns. That's what will get you your kills on this game mode, and in all the other game modes in fairness. As you can see there, left it far too long. I could have engaged with guns, but I was too distracted by trying to get a lock on. That's a major problem with the heat seekers. You become far too reliant on them. So again, I recommend simply, as you can see here, if they're at range, engage, and then you can finish them with a gun if they break the lock. Or what I like to do is use them as a fire and forget thing. Get the lock on, send your missiles away, and then turn on to a completely other target. Don't worry about the target that you've just sent missiles off to. Don't become too easily distracted by targets flying through the air. There is so many on air superiority, it's very easily to switch between them. You don't need to get wrapped up in trying to take out one particular jet. If it's too difficult for you to get, or it's getting away from you, leave them. Just leave them alone. Send your missiles off, and that's that. Your ECM jammer or IR flares. Now remember what I said before. Flares will be for breaking the lock of an already incoming missile. So when you've got that beeping going on, that's when you need to deploy your flares. Not before that. The slow beeping is them simply getting a lock. That is when you use get my words out. That is when you would use an ECM jammer. Not before, not afterwards. Wait until you've got tone or someone's getting a lock on you, deploy your ECM jammer, and get the hell out of dodge. That's your cue then to move, and the same with your flares. If you deploy flares, if you've got an incoming missile, deploy them, get out of dodge, get out of the battle, wait for them to recharge before you go back in. And lastly, the stealth. The stealth's just there to kind of do its job. It doesn't need recharging or anything like that. It will just make it longer. It will give you more of a break and will allow your ECMs or whatever to recharge, hopefully before they can get another lock on, because obviously it's taking longer. And that really is it. So it's really simple, but there's just certain things in air superiority that you should be doing that a lot of people don't. So I'll recap over them again. Do not get too drawn into one jet. There's plenty around that you can shoot at. Don't get drawn into the one. Just if the one keeps getting away from you, just turn and leave and find someone else. Your air-to-air missiles, only use them at range. Do not try and use them at close range, because they won't work and you'll find yourself getting more or less no kills and just getting destroyed and raped by people with guns. As for when you actually get a lock on, let your missiles go. You don't need to watch them, you don't need to follow them. You can just fire and forget. Turn away, find another target, maybe one that's closer. If, however, you're flying around and you do see somebody pop flares, it always pays to track that person for just a few seconds and wait till you can get your own lock on. Because normally, like that there, their flares won't have recharged in time and you can get the kill. Guns will be your saving grace at the end of it, and in the next video, which you can look forward to, I'll try and be a bit more concise with this. I'll teach you how to properly lead your targets and use effective gun control with turning. So thank you for watching, I hope you've learned something from this. It's appreciated as always. Take it easy guys, bye bye.